I welcome you all to our webinar today. My name is Isabel. In a few minutes, I will be extending a warm welcome to Edgar. Our topic today, Mastering Data Management with ELO. Here's a little more information for you before we start. You will be muted during the webinar, but are welcome to ask your questions in the question box at any time. After the webinar, we will of course take the time to answer them. You hardly need to take notes. You will receive the training materials relatively soon. And now I'm looking forward to a great presentation by Edgar. Welcome, Edgar. I'll hand over to you now.
Thank you and welcome from my side as well. My name is Edgar and I will talk about mastering data management with ELO today. So which topics will we cover? First of all, we'll have a look on what is data management, what means data management, and what things you have to consider when you think about data management. Then we'll have a look on storing data in ELO, because ELO is capable of storing data from different sources. Then we'll have a look on how to collect the data with ELO. Then we'll have a look on organizing the data in the ELO ECM suite. And in the live demo, I show you how data is stored and which data comes from where, and how data management works in the ELO ECM suite. Then we'll have a short summary on data management in ELO. And then there's time for your questions and answers. And if you have any questions during the webinar, just ask them in your question box and the answers you will get in the end. So let's have a look on what is data management. So just think of a company. Doesn't matter which company which produces something, which sells something, which don't know, does something. And as long as the company is doing the thing which it does, it works fine. But to do so, there are some departments necessary. So for example, you have an HR department which has to have a look on the employees. We have to hire new ones. When someone gets sick or is on vacation, then they have to do something. Then we have the sales department, which sells the things we produce. Maybe we have we will have a finance department. They have a look on the money in the company, research and development department, then a department which is responsible for the deliveries, well, those are the departments in a company. So in every department during the daily work produces data. The thing is, every department produces data in a different way, because the HR department produces HR data, which is in a specific format. They produce documents as well. Sales department, they have calculations, they have proposals and so on in their own format. The finance department has an ERP system or something, and research and development creates some planning data or drawings for the newest products. So we have data in a company, and those data are important for the company to be successful. And that's why data management is so important. But you have to find a way to collect those data in a central storage or in a central repository so that you can do some things with it. So you can do planning, for example, when you do your production planning in a factory, then the HR department data is very important for this, because are there enough employees for the production? Is someone on vacation or something else? Or when the R&D department is planning a new product, then you need those data because you need to be able to say, okay, we can do it or we can't do it because we need some things for it. And well, as I said, the thing is, data is available, but in different departments and maybe in different formats. So for this, data management is important. And on average, a company has 400 different data sources in the company. Can be different applications, can be external data, whatever, but on average 400 data sources per organization. And the other thing is data worldwide is increasing. Well, as you can see in the last 5 to 6 years, we have 5 times more data than 6 years ago. So, and for this, you should make data management. Data management is the practice of collecting, organizing, protecting, and storing an organization's data so it can be analyzed for business decisions. So not only collecting, but you have to organize the data as well, because what are you doing when you have collected all your data? You have to organize it in some way, and you have to protect your data, and you have to store your data as well for analyzing them for business decisions. So this can be done with ELO as well for the ELO relevant processes in a company. So how do we store data in ELO? We don't only store documents, but we store data as well. So just think of it. You're filing a document. Let's say it's a delivery note. And you need some information for this delivery note to be filed in the repository. That's the so-called metadata. And in this case, just an example, we need the information: when is the document filed, who's the supplier, who's the recipient, when was the order date, when was the order number, and what is the order number, and what is the job number. Because with this information, you know which kind of document this is, in this case a delivery note, and you have some more information to analyze them afterwards, because afterwards you can say how many delivery notes did we get from our supplier Acme LLC, or you can file the document in the correct location, not only by their order number, but through the job number. You get the information where to file the document, because you have a project and there it has to be filed as well. Or you can create the reference to the document in the project folder, and in the finance department, they need the document as well, so you can file it in different locations with those informations. On the other hand, you can find the document much easier afterwards, because when you're looking for a delivery note for this specific order number, you will find the document because it's stored in the metadata, this information. The source of the document can be different. So when it's a document which you create by yourself in your ERP or CRM system, then you can file it automatically in the ELO ECM suite. When you receive the document with an email, then you can get the document from there automatically, and then it's filed in the repository as well. When it's a document which you only have on paper, then you have to scan it, but this can be done only by pushing a button, and then it's filed in the repository as well, because we don't only scan the documents, but we can analyze them as well. Or if the source of a document is a database, so the document is from or consists of data from a database, this can be created automatically as well. So then it's a document with the data from the database. Doesn't matter which source of document you have. Some sources of a document, but those are the most common sources. And in our case, let's say it's a scan because it's a delivery note which I received when my things were delivered. And on the other hand, for the data, there can be different sources as well. So source of data can be an ERP or CRM as well. It can the data can come from the document itself. This can be done with an OCR, or the data can be stored in the database, or it is external data. And in our case, it's a combination of data from the ERP system and data from the document itself. So the green ones are from the document, which we fetched with an OCR, and the blue one, just the job number, comes from our ERP system. So that's how you can collect the data and know how you can store the data in the ELO ECM suite. Depends on the source of the document and the source of the data, but you can combine them. So how can we collect the data with ELO? So first of all, we have our document and we have our metadata form. The metadata form defines the kind of document. So it describes the document, which sort of document do we have? In this case, we have a delivery note. And normally metadata forms are available for different documents, for example, delivery note, invoices, but also contract documents, HR documents, whatever you need in the company, you can create the metadata form for this. And the metadata form not only describes which document this is, but has different information in the metadata fields. In my case, a delivery note consists of those 6 fields. When was it filed? Who's the supplier? Who's the recipient? When was the order date? What's the order number? And what's the job number? And to collect the data, normally you start by filing the document in the repository. So let's say we received this document with an email. The first thing, what we do, we get the document from the email, or we get the attachment from the email, and then we can say, okay, that's a delivery note. And then the first thing which is filled out automatically is the date when it was filed, because that's the actual date. And that's an information which you can't change, which is just written automatically. Next information, what we need is supplier, recipient, order date, and order number. And this we know is available on the document itself. So how do we get this information? The OCR scans the document and extracts the information from the document, because the OCR knows where to find the supplier, the recipient, the order date, and the order number. So can be done in different ways, but well, it is possible. Those are the information which we collect from the document itself. Can define which information you need. You can define which information is written in which metadata form. It's just, well, not even a click. You can automate it this way that the document is filed in the repository. Then the OCR analyzes the document and finds the correct information on the document itself. And the last thing, which we don't have yet, is the job number, because the job number is available in our ERP system. So how do we get the job number? The job number we get with the order number, my example. So for this, we need to send the request to our database, ERP system, whatever, and we will receive the answer, and then the job number is written into our metadata form. So that's an example on how we can collect the data in ELO from the document itself, from an ERP, with the OCR, and so on. And the goal is always to do this automatically, that you don't have to do many things with the document because it's filed automatically. OCR is automatically. We map the metadata fields to the information from the OCR. And then you have collected your data. The last thing which we have to do, we have to file it somewhere. Because, well, it's filed in the repository, but we want to file it in a specific location in our repository. And this can be done with the available information as well. So we can file the document with the information of the supplier, the order date, and the job number. And in my case, it is filed in a folder which is located in projects 2024. Then we have the project number P0158-2024 ECME LLC. And then there is a folder which is called delivery notes. And thanks to the information which we have collected during filing the document, we can file it with the correct name in the correct location to have a structured and organized way to file documents and information in our repository. And as I said, it takes much more time to explain how it works than it works in real life, because it's just filing a document and the rest happens automatically. Next thing, we have now collected the data. We know how to store the data. We collected the data. Now the next thing is organizing data, because that's a topic for data management as well. Because data management is not only collecting and storing data, but you have to organize it as well. So there's several criteria for data management, for organizing data in a repository or somewhere else. In our case, it's a repository. Three of those criteria are classification of the document, which we have done with our metadata form. So we know what kind of document we have filed in the repository. Then we have the metadata tagging as well, which we have done by using OCR and the database, so we know where to write which metadata information. And then we have a folder structure where we have filed our document. So those three criteria we meet, but there's some more. We need, for example, indexing and search. So we need to index the documents as well and to make them searchable. And you can define in the repository if the document is searchable. No, the document is searchable, but if the full text information from the OCR is also available for searching or not. Then we need another thing, that's access control. That's a big topic for data management, because not everyone should access every data in the repository. For example, an invoice or HR documents, they need different permissions, because you have to make sure that not everyone has access to this information. Then we need a version control, which is standard in the ELO ECM suite, where you have a version control not only of the documents, but of the metadata information as well. Then we need lifecycle management with the deletion and retention period, when the date is reached and the document disappears from the repository automatically. So you don't have to think of, oh, I have to delete some files because we have reached the end of the retention period. This happens automatically as a standard feature of the ELO ECM suite. And then we should integrate those information, those data which we have stored, filed in our repository. We should be able to integrate them within our business systems. So we have ERPs, we have CRMs, so this information should be available there as well. So let's have a look on how we manage this in our repository. And yeah, what you see right now, that's our repository, that's the ELO ECM suite, and you can see our web client in here, where you can access different areas of the ELO ECM suite. For example, the repository itself, which can be found on top left. Then here we can search for our documents. There we have a dashboard for our invoices in the company. So you can access different functions and areas of the ELO ECM suite from the start screen of your client. And in this case, we have the web client. And every document, every information is filed in the repository. So let's have a look at our repository, where we have some folders here. That's the repository of Contilo Corp, with a folder for customers, for HR, for legal department, and so on. And we have a folder for projects as well. Then we have some subfolders. 2024 was the right folder. And here's the folder for our project, where we have different subfolders which are created automatically when you create a new project. And here we have the delivery notes, and there's our delivery note. And what happened when we filed the document in the repository? We filled out the metadata form automatically. So the metadata can be accessed by clicking on metadata up here, and that's the metadata form for delivery note. With different metadata forms for different types of documents. For example, we have a standard document when you don't have some specific needs for the document itself, but we have a metadata form for an email as well, where we have different fields available with a sender, recipient, and so on. So that's the metadata form for an email, but with different other metadata forms as well. And in this case, it's a delivery note. And the delivery note consists of some metadata information. For example, we have the short name, which is created automatically, which can be generated with the information which is available here. We have a document date. We have a filing date, which you can't change. We have an order number, we have an order date, we have a supplier number, a supplier name, a recipient, and here we would have a project number as well, if it would be available. So that's the metadata information for this document. And when I change the metadata form, let's say, no, it's a customer record, then it changes the metadata fields as well. So we have a delivery note. Let's change it back to delivery note. To change a metadata form, you need specific rights, specific permissions in the repository, because it's not possible for every user to change a metadata form, because the metadata form is an essential information for the document. It describes the type of the document, and it has some metadata information filed in the fields. So changing the metadata form should not be possible for everyone. In my case, I'm Daniel Cooper, I'm the CEO. I know what I do. I should know what I do, so I can change the metadata form. So that's the metadata information, which we got from the document itself, which we got from the ERP system, whatever. And this happened automatically. Then we have some space for extra text, where you can type in some extra information if you need them. And then we come to the options. And the options are always the same for every document, the available option. For example, we have a personal identifier. This is relevant when it comes to personal information which is stored in the repository. For example, HR documents always have a personal identifier, so that you can say, okay, what has happened with those information with those documents, who had access to those documents, how are the permissions for those things, and so on. So that's for personal data. In our case, with a delivery note, that's not personal data. Then we have the end of deletion and the end of retention period. Those can be defined automatically depending on the information in the metadata form. For a delivery note, we don't have a deletion or retention period. But for example, for an invoice, we have a deletion period. And this state is filled in automatically when the document is filed in the repository. So for example, when I file a document today is the 26th of March 2024, I have a deletion period of 7 years something, then the document is deleted on the 27th of March in 2031. Yes, calculated right. So can be defined automatically, but we could set it manually as well when we have the proper permissions for this. So those are the deletion and retention period. Then we have the entry type. In this case, it's a PDF, which you can change. That's the color of the short name in the folder. And then we have the document status. The status in this case is version control enabled. Can be defined with the metadata form, can be changed when you have the proper permissions. We can enable it, we can disable it, or we can define it as non-modifiable. So version control enabled means every time the document is changed, a new version is created. So then you are able to revert to an older version, for example. With a delivery note, doesn't make sense. But when you have a document which is changed permanently, then you can revert it to another version, to an older version, easily just by clicking. It's 2 clicks. Then here's the option for encryption. We can encrypt and decrypt documents in the repository where you need a special key for this to access your document. And then we have the option for add to full text database so that you can find the information with the full text information available from the OCR. In this case, it's a delivery note. Well, is an option which could be practical, because when you're looking for a specific article number, for example, then you will find the document when it's written on the document. So those are the options. The rest are internal options. And then last but not least, it comes to the permissions. Who has the permission to access this document? In our case, consulting has the permission to read the document, to change the metadata, to edit the document, and to set the reference to another folder. Same with the management, and the administrator has full rights, so read, write, delete, and change permissions as well. So the administrator is the only one who can do everything with the document. And when we don't have the right to read our document, then we won't find the document. We can't see the document. It's not available for us. So when you're not member of the group consulting or management, then you can't see the document because you don't have any rights on this document. This is very important when it comes to documents which not everyone should have access to it, but it can be useful as well to provide the right structure for the users. Because when they don't see a folder, then or when they don't have the right for the folder, then they don't see the folder. So those are the options and permissions for data management, but there's some more things which we have to think of. So data management in the ELO ECM suite. As I said, classification of the document, metadata, tagging, folder structure, indexing and search, access control, version control, lifecycle management. That's all possible with the ELO ECM suite, and those are standard features which you can use by using the ELO ECM suite. But there's one more: integration in business systems. And with the so-called ELO integration client, it is possible to integrate in your business applications, in your ERP, in your CRM. And it looks like this. That's the integration client, and it integrates in third-party applications, and you can file documents, read the files, you can change the metadata, and you can fill in forms in the integration client. You can't access workflows, and you can't use the ELO iSearch, because the integration client shows you the information which is relevant for the case, for the object which you have opened in your leading application. In this case, I think it's SAP Business One, or in the other example, we have integrated it in Salesforce. There are other integration services available for the integration client, but this is what it would look like. You have an extra tab where you can find the documents and access the information which is filed in the repository of ELO. So then we can set it to green as well. So that's data management in ELO, from the classification of a document up to the integration with your business systems. So you can collect and reuse existing data, and that's always the goal when it comes to new solutions for our customers. We reuse existing data. Data is stored in your company, in your ERP, in your CRM, whatever. We reuse those existing data. We can get them and reuse them in our metadata forms. The data is organized easily because you can collect data from different sources and put them together in the metadata information of your document. Data is searchable. When you have the permissions to find the document, then it is searchable as well. You can use the metadata forms for searching a document. Then we have lifecycle management with the retention and deletion period. We can integrate in other business systems like an ERP or a CRM. And we have the access control as well. So we know, or we can set the proper permissions, but we also can tell who had access to the data and who changed what and who did what when in the repository with the metadata or with the documents. So data management with ELO, yes, it is possible. We can do it, and we can do it the proper way. So that's the end of our webinar. Now we have time for questions and answers. And as far as I can see, I have one question. Just a second. I'm just reading the question. Can multiple users access and collaborate on documents simultaneously? Nope. Depends. To work with the document, you have to check out the document, and as long as you have checked it out, no one else can change the document in the repository. You can change it by collaborating with other tools. For example, Microsoft Office has some collaboration features, but as long as you have checked out the document, no one else can change the document. They only see the last saved version in the repository. Second question. Well, interoperability, different word, with other systems, well, normally we have some additional modules for this, and when we don't have additional modules for this, then we well, find a way to access the information which is stored there and which should be available in the ELO ECM suite as well. How does it facilitate secure share? Oh, secure sharing. Well, there's some ways to share documents, internal and external. Internal, you can set temporary permissions. External, there's an additional module available. It's called Team Room, where you can give external users access to the document. So I hope this answers those questions. Yes, thank you, welcome. Well, some more questions? If not, then we are, well, yes, we are finished. So last thing to do. Thank you for your attention and see you next time. Hear you next time.
Thank you very much for this great presentation, Edgar. Now I would like to tell you about our upcoming webinars. Just a second. Yes. You can register via the following link on the website elo.com/webseminar. Please keep in mind you can register up to 1 hour before the webinar starts. Thank you for attending the webinar. I hope to welcome you at our next webinar as well. Until then, have a great day. Goodbye.